What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 165 of MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Tuesday, June 2nd, 2026. I'm your host, Zach Malum. But before we get started, please subscribe below. Follow all of my social accounts. Let's start things off in the world of basketball as we preview Game 1 of the NBA Finals. An 8:30 start as the New York Knicks take on the San Antonio Spurs down at the Frost Bank Center. And the Spurs come into this game as 4.5-point favorites, total sitting at 218.5. What a battle it's going to be. Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs against Jalen Brunson and the New York Knicks. The Knicks coming off of a bit of rest. They swept back-to-back series against the Sixers and then the Cavs in the Eastern Conference Final. Spurs have taken a different route. 6 games against the Minnesota Timberwolves. They beat them and then take on the defending NBA champs in the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Spurs win it in 7. They take down the Thunder in their own arena, 111-103, and the Spurs with a phenomenal victory, taking down Shea and the Thunder and knocking them off in their own building in Game 7 of the Western Conference Final. The Spurs go back to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2014. Of course, the Knicks back in the Finals for the first time since 1999, when they lost to the San Antonio Spurs. Tim Duncan and the crew celebrating in Madison Square Garden. Knicks looking for a different result this time around, and it's a brand new ball club. A lot has changed in the 25 years or so since the Knicks were back in the NBA Finals. When you look at this series overall, though, there's 2 major keys for this Knicks team to get past this young and hungry San Antonio Spurs squad. I think the first thing is they need to worry about the Spurs supporting cast. You look at Victor Wembanyama. He had 30-plus points in just 4 of the 17 playoff games that he's played in for the Spurs this postseason. It tells you that, yes, Wemby can take over a game, but it's about the rest of the guys. You look at Game 7, the biggest example for San Antonio. Victor Wembanyama, 22 points in the game, but the rest of the supporting cast, Julian Champagnie, the St. John's grad, had 20 points with 6 3-pointers in the game. You also had De'Aaron Fox with 15 points. Stephon Castle had 16 points. The Knicks do have guys that can guard the rest of the guys besides Wembanyama. Yes, it's a question of who will guard Victor in this series, and Mitchell Robinson dealing with that finger injury and obviously got surgery on it. Gonna play in Game 1. We'll see how healthy he is with that surgery just a couple of days ago. They do have a couple guys that could guard Wemby, but not really going to be able to contain him too much. Wemby's going to get his points. It's about the rest of the guys. You got guys in Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, even Landry Shamet, a guy coming off the bench that can guard the supporting cast around Wemby. If the Knicks can contain those guys, and Wemby has his 30 points here and there, the Knicks will live with that. Wemby's going to do his thing. It's about the rest of the guys, though, and the Knicks have to have an A-plus game plan to stop some of those other guys, De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, and even Julian Champagnie, as well as Dylan Harper coming off the bench. They got a lot of guys that the Knicks are going to have to focus on, and it's not all about Victor Wembanyama. That's one key heading into this series. The next one is the Knicks need to shoot well from beyond the arc. The Knicks, during their 11-game win streak, they had just one game where they shot under 30% from deep. That's been a huge key for New York, a little bit different from what it's been in the past. The high-tempo offense, the Knicks like to get out on the break. Maybe they can't do that as much against a young Spurs team that's got a lot of talent and a lot of youth on their side. But looking at the Knicks overall, if they shoot well from deep, you get your guys in Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Karl-Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, Landry Shamet off the bench, Deuce McBride as well. If all those guys are shooting well, especially from deep, the Knicks are going to have a good chance against a Spurs team that could also shoot the ball well. I mean, you saw Julian Champagnie, a guy who's not even playing too much throughout the regular season, but has really become a star in the postseason for the Spurs. He ends up having 20 points, hit 6 3-pointers the other day. So the Knicks have to equal that on their own side. If they can challenge San Antonio in terms of the point total. It's a little bit different from the previous series where they had Donovan Mitchell to guard and he was knocking down every sort of shot. The rest of the guys were kind of struggling, but Cleveland did have three-point shooters. It was just that the Knicks were better in that series. They hit a lot more three-pointers. They got out to large leads in that series, and I think looking at the three-point ball, that's a major factor heading into game one of this series. A lot of people will tell you that slowing down Wemby is the key factor in this series. I do think when it gets to later on in the series, game 5, game 6, game 7, that's when you're really going to see the effects of a long series and a long postseason for Victor Wembanyama. But early on, game 1, game 2, I think you're going to get A+ Victor Wembanyama. He's going to be on his A game in these early games, and I think looking at the Knicks overall, if they can make him work a little bit, the Knicks, I mentioned a lot of transition ball, if they can make him run a lot and get him tired, that'll be a key factor in the later parts of this series. But early on, the Knicks can't focus on that right away. They have to have a gradual effect towards that in terms of getting Wemby tired for the rest of the series. But it should be a phenomenal series between two of the most historic franchises and most popular franchises in all of basketball, the San Antonio Spurs and the New York Knicks. The Garden will be rocking for game 3. They will have to wait, though, as games 1 and 2 will be down in San Antonio. And I mentioned tomorrow will be game 1 between the Knicks and the Spurs, an 8:30 start. I think looking at the Knicks side of things, going on the road for the first couple of games, they've been really good on the road so far this postseason. That's been a difference maker for the Knicks, and a lot of their closeout games have come on the road. So that's going to be a huge factor for the Knicks later on. But for right now, if the Knicks win one of the 2 games on the road to start this series, I think they're in good shape. You can't expect them to win both. I know they're red hot, but you have to take what you can get. If the Knicks can get one of the 2 games down in San Antonio, the Knicks will be in really good shape heading back to Madison Square Garden for the next 2 games in front of that raucous home crowd at MSG. So we'll see what happens, but make sure you tune in tomorrow night, an 8:30 start. Game 1 of the NBA Finals. It's the New York Knicks and the San Antonio Spurs down at the Frostbank Center. Shifting things to the world of baseball, as both your teams were in action this weekend, and we start things out in Queens as the New York Mets took on the Miami Marlins, coming off of a series loss against the Cincinnati Reds. The Mets had lost 5 in a row. They won the final game of the 3-game set against Cincinnati. That was a 4-2 win on Wednesday, with Jonah Tong getting his first win of the year. And then you look at the next couple of games after that. They welcome back the Miami Marlins, a team that they were swept by just the weekend before that, 3-0. And the story of that series was how bad the offense was. The story of this series was how great the offense was for the New York Mets. They end up winning on Friday 9-7, a bit of a back and forth game, but give credit to the Mets who won it in extra innings as MJ Melendez comes off the bench and knocks Pete Fairbanks deep into right field in the bottom of the 10th. It was a tough spot for MJ Melendez as he came up after Juan Soto did not get on base. It looked almost like a bad sign for the Mets, especially with the ghost runner at second base, but MJ Melendez sends it deep to right field, a towering shot, and the Mets win it 9-7 after Freddie Peralta went 4 2/3 in this game. 7 hits allowed, 2 earned runs, 4 runs with 2 of them earned, and he had a walk and 5 Ks. Not a great start for Freddie Peralta, to say the least. And Peralta, a guy who I think Met fans expected to get more out of when they acquired him. He's just turned into simple 5 innings or so. Freddie Peralta really can't give you much more than that. And he's also struggled so far this season to really, limit the amount of hits. The strikeouts are down from what it's been. He has a couple of starts here and there where the walks are a problem. So it just seems like they're not on the same page, Freddie Peralta and Met fans, in terms of what they were expecting from him. He ends up getting a good result, a no decision here, but it was a good win for the Mets, 9-7. They take down the Marlins in the first game of the 3-game set. Then they went to Saturday. Christian Scott on the mound, and the Mets offense helped him out in the 4th inning with Mark Vientos hitting a 2-run double. Then it was Marcus Semien who added on with an RBI single. 3-0 Mets, and Christian Scott was electric in this one. 5 innings, 5 hits, just the 1 earned run with 2 walks and 8 Ks, 96 pitches. I mean, really good stuff from Christian Scott, who's been great so far this season for the Mets. 2.97 ERA. If you told anybody before the season, Christian Scott, he's getting healthy, but he's coming off of Tommy John and trying to get back to 2024, where, of course, he ended up finishing the season with that Tommy John surgery. He comes into the year not 100% just yet, but looking to really bounce back right now. And he has a 2.97 ERA in 7 starts. Any Met fan would take that. Really good stuff from Scott, and he's been great for the Mets so far this season. So the Mets win it 6-1, and a pretty easy win for New York in Game 2 of the 3-game series. And then you go into Sunday's game, and it's Nolan McLean on the mound, coming off of a couple of starts where he got absolutely trucked. One against the Washington Nationals at Nationals Park. The latest one was against the Cincinnati Reds, who tagged him for 7 earned at Citi Field. He ends up coming into this game. The ERA was way up from where it was expected, but it really came down to those last 2 starts. And a pretty solid start in the end. One that you'll take for Nolan McLean. Didn't have his best stuff in the game, but if you take 5 innings, 2 hits, with 1 earned run, I think that's really what you're looking for from Nolan McLean. Even the strikeouts were not there, only 2 of them on the afternoon, and he had 5 walks, so something that he really needs to cut down on. But 94 pitches, he goes 5 innings, and just the 2 hits with 1 earned run. I mean, Met fans will take that after what they saw the previous 2 starts. But the offense really woke up. I mentioned in this series, they were terrific all series long. They end up putting up 25 runs in 3 games. I mean, just terrific stuff from the Mets there, and they end up winning it 10-1 in the series finale. David Peterson came on for the save, actually, for the Mets. He went 4 innings with 1 hit allowed, no runs, with 1 walk and 3 Ks. Really good stuff from Peterson, and a guy who you're going to see it out of the bullpen now. I think that's really the spot you want to see David Peterson. There was a lot of the scenarios where he would come in after an opener, and he was really good. The Mets started to change that because they were desperate for starting pitchers. They ended up putting him back in the rotation, and he got trucked once again. So looking at it, David Peterson's got to be a guy out of the bullpen. Put him in that Sean Manaea type of role. He's been really, really good so far this season in terms of out of the bullpen. And I think that's really the spot for him behind those guys like Nolan McLean or Freddie Peralta. They haven't been able to really give you 5 innings or 6 innings or anything more than 5 innings in a game. And when you look at David Peterson, he'll give you the extra 4 innings and be really solid with it. But I mentioned the offense. Carson Bench led off with a home run to center field, gave the Mets a 1-0 lead. Marcus Semien hit a 2-run bomb. Then it was Luis Torrens who came up with a bases-loaded 2-run single in the 4th. Bo Bichette walked in a run, and then you had Juan Soto with the cherry on top with a grand slam, his 3rd career grand slam, sends it to right center field and gives the Mets a 10-1 lead. That's how it would finish. And the Mets sweep the Marlins right back the week after the Marlins swept the Mets down in Miami. So good series overall from the Mets, but a lot of things that they still need to work on. I mean, the offense looked really good in the series, but the consistency is what you're looking for from the Mets offense. And then they headed into, already started a Seattle series on the road up in Seattle against a tough Mariners team that has won 6 in a row. Heading into this one, looking really good. And they end up taking on the Mariners last night. It was a 3-2 loss in extra innings in 10 as Cole Young singles in the 10th off of A.J. Minter. It scores the winning run for the Mariners, and the Mets lose it 3-2. It came down to The Mets offense was so bad in this game after a really good series against the Marlins. It's one of the only times in Mets history where they had 2 hits in the game and both of them came on solo home runs, and that was it. That was their only hits on the night, and that's not going to win you a baseball game. The Mariners had 4 hits, so they weren't much better, but they made the most of their opportunities. Colt Emerson started it off for the Mariners, giving them a 1-0 lead with a homer in the game off of Sean Manaea. And then later on, it was Josh Naylor who hit a solo bomb off of Brooks Raley, who's been really good so far this season. And just a mistake pitch that Naylor takes deep into right field. It tied the game at 2 after Jared Young and Marcus Semien hit solo bombs for the Mets in the 5th and 6th inning, respectively. But then I mentioned Cole Young in the 10th inning. AJ Minter came on, and Cole Young blooped one into left field. Randy Arozarena came around to score, and the Mets lose the opening game of the 3-game set. It's a 3-2 final in 10. Emerson Hancock, who's been really good for the Mariners so far this season, a 2.80 ERA now, did allow the 2 earned runs on 2 bombs, 2 solo bombs, but the rest of the night was really good from Hancock. 6 innings, 2 hits, 2 earned with no walks and 7 Ks. Really had this Mets lineup in a lot of trouble, and I think looking at the Mets lineup, they have to bounce back. Especially against a very tough Seattle staff where it seems like every night you just get a better pitcher to go up against. You had a really solid pitcher in Hancock, who's actually been one of the better pitchers, if not the best pitcher for Seattle so far this season. But now you got to take on Logan Gilbert. You got George Kirby tomorrow. I mean, every single night it seems, and every single day, Seattle just throws out a really wicked arm. But it all starts tonight, a 9:40 start, as the Seattle Mariners host the New York Mets. Jonathan gets the start for the Mets in this one, 1-0, and hasn't allowed a run so far this season, or an earned run so far this season. Has allowed 1 run in that game last week. When you look at Logan Gilbert, 3-4, 3.69 ERA, not the greatest stuff in terms of the record, but the stuff is there. A really tough pitcher to go up against, and the Mets will have their hands full, especially after a night where they struggled on the offensive side. So the Mets take on the Mariners, second game of the 3-game set. It's a 9:40 start up in Seattle. Make sure you tune into that one later. Shifting things to the other side of New York, as the New York Yankees were also in action this weekend. They were finishing up a 6-game road trip after they swept the Kansas City Royals. The Yankees were working now on a 5-game win streak once they beat the Athletics in game 1 of the 3-game set. This one out in Sacramento, and I mentioned the Yankees won 8-2. It was Carlos Rodon who had a really good outing in this one. 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run with 2 walks and 3 Ks. Really good stuff from Rodon in his best outing of the season so far. Not even close, and it really proved in this one. Luis Severino got trucked early on in this one. It ended up being an error that allowed all of the runs, but he allows 4 runs. None of them are earned, and he only pitches 1 inning. Went out with an injury after the first inning of this game, but 1 inning, 3 hits, 4 runs, 0 earned with no walks and a K. Obviously an old friend in Luis Severino. Yankees love, and Yankees fans love Luis Severino. Don't want to see him hurt, but of course the Yankees trucked him in this game. He was out early on, and the Yankees held on for the rest of the time. They continued to roll on the offensive side. Ben Rice added an RBI single in the second. Ryan McMahon with a homer. Rice had a homer later in the game. Judge had an RBI ground out, and looking at it, in the end, the Yankees win it 8-2. Really good stuff by this Yankees team, especially after Rodon went out. It was Hedrick, it was Cruz, and then Paul Blackburn finished it off for 2 innings at the end of the game. So the Yankees on a 5-game win streak, feeling really good. And all of a sudden, when it looked like, all right, they're struggling a little bit, some of the bigger teams in baseball, some of the hotter teams in baseball were taking it to the Yankees, and all of a sudden they've turned it around. They then went into Saturday's game where it was a bit of a struggle once again, and they could not really get anything going later on. The Yankees went down early on with Ryan Weathers allowing a 2-run bomb to Shea Langoliers in the first inning. It was already 2-0. Cody Bellinger scored on an error to make it 2-1. But then after that, it was Tyler Soderstrom who hit a solo bomb. Nick Kurtz hit a 2-run bomb, and then Zach Geloff ended up finishing it off with a RBI single to make it 6-1. Yankees got some traffic going in the ninth. They had 3 walks in the ninth inning that all brought in runs, with Ben Rice, Aaron Judge, and Cody Bellinger all walking RBI walks to make it 6-4. But that's how it would finish off. The Yankee offense didn't do enough, and Ryan Weathers obviously did not have his best stuff. 107 pitches, but goes 6 2/3, 6 hits allowed, 5 earned runs with 3 walks, 10 Ks. The strikeout stuff, it seems, is always there for Ryan Weathers, but everything after that, he kind of struggles. And I think a guy who's been really solid, 3.52 ERA, just one of his rough outings of the season. So the Yankees have to move past it, and boy, did they. After a really weird game on Saturday, they go into Sunday's game, and they take it to the Athletics in this one. The Yankees were down 3-0 once again early on in this game. Will Warren ended up getting into some trouble, and no earned runs allowed, but 3 runs allowed by Will Warren in the first inning. And the Yankees, all of a sudden, after Trent Grisham had that fielding error, dropped pop-up in center field, the Yankees ended up allowing 3 runs. They're down 3-0. It got to the third inning, and one of the best innings you'll ever see from the Yankees, especially when you look at franchise history, all the records that they broke with this 13-run third inning against the Athletics. And looking at the Yankees, they had 13 runs, 11 hits in the inning, and that was it. That was the Yankee offense. The rest of the game, the other 8 innings, they had nothing going, not even a hit on the board for this Yankees team. So good thing that they did have that 13-run inning, as the A's responded with 8 runs themselves, and it was 13-8 the final score. But the real positive sign, I would say, for the Yankees is, number 1, Anthony Volpe looked great in that inning, and number 2, Ben Rice is just a difference maker right now for the Yankees. Had a 2-run double in the third, and then finished it off with a 2-run triple later on in the same third inning. Just great stuff by Ben Rice. Really good stuff from the Yankees in that inning. They got everybody involved, and they ended up winning the final game of the 3-game set, 13-8 the final, as they take down the Athletics down in Sacramento. So the Yankees now head home. They have another home stand. 2 tough opponents, the Cleveland Guardians as well as the Boston Red Sox. 2 teams that the Yankees have seen quite a lot of in the past, as Cleveland's starting to feel a lot better in the AL Central. They've started to get things going, and a real solid record now, 7 games over 500. They are 34-27. The Red Sox, not so much, still sitting in 5th place in the American League East, 25-33. But focus on one series at a time, and the Yankees have to do that tonight. They get Cam Schlittler on the mound, so that's a positive sign for New York. It's a 7:05 start as Cam Schlittler takes on Joey Cantillo. Cantillo, 4-2 on the year, 3.57 ERA, the lefty for Cleveland. And Cam Schlittler, you know what he's done so far this year. He's actually the favorite, odds-on favorite right now to win the American League Cy Young. 7-2, a 1.50 ERA. The whip is 0.85 right now. I mean, just electric stuff from Cam, and he looks to continue that. The Yankees, 13 games over 500. They start a 3-game set. Tonight, 7:05 start against the Cleveland Guardians out at Yankee Stadium. But that will do it for episode 165 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Malum, and thanks for watching, and talk to you all on Friday.